The sirens shattered the twilight calm of Willow Grove, their wails slicing through the suburban stillness like a blade. On Maple Circle, porch lights blinked on, casting eerie glows across trimmed hedges as residents rushed outside, drawn to the flashing red and blue lights. An ambulance skidded to a stop in front of 19 Maple Circle, its doors flying open to reveal three figures who stumbled out, their movements clumsy, almost panicked. From her front steps, Sarah Nolan gripped her coffee mug, dread coiling in her chest. Something was horribly wrong. These weren't paramedics, they were pretenders. Willow Grove was a postcard of perfection, its pastel homes and tidy lawns a testament to order and affluence. The Homeowners Association, led by the smooth-talking Edward Vance, had polished the neighborhood's image to a gleam. New park benches sparkled, community picnics hummed with chatter, and every mailbox bore the HOA's logo, a quiet flex of control. But tonight, as the so-called EMTs fumbled with a stretcher, dropping it onto the pavement with a clang, that facade began to splinter. 15 minutes earlier, Sarah had been scrolling through her phone when a text from her neighbor, Laura Hensley, lit up the screen. "Jack's down. Chest pain. Called the hotline." Sarah's heart sank. Jack Hensley, the retired librarian who always shared tomatoes from his garden, had a known heart condition. She'd hurried outside just as the ambulance, emblazoned with Willow Grove Rapid Response, lurched into the cul-de-sac. Now, watching the chaos unfold, she cursed herself for not calling 911 herself. Neighbors gathered on the Hensley's lawn, their murmurs sharp with unease. "Those aren't real uniforms," whispered Tom Greer, a plumber who'd lived there for years. "They can't even work the oxygen tank." Sarah's eyes narrowed as one responder, a wiry young man with a crooked name tag, tripped over a medical bag, spilling gauze onto the grass. Another, an older woman, snapped at her partner in a frantic hush. The third, a stocky man with a nervous tic, stared at the house like it might bite. Inside, Laura knelt beside Jack, her hands shaking as she tried to recall a long-ago CPR class. Jack's face was gray, his breaths faint and uneven. "Hang on, Jack," she whispered, her voice cracking. She dialed the HOA's emergency hotline 555, Korea's drilled into residents via flyers and newsletters. The operator had promised help in minutes, but the trio now crowding her Lee VY-ing room weren't SA, VY, or STHI were neighbors she recognized from block parties, dressed up as medics. This disaster had been brewing for months, sparked at a crowded HOA meeting in the community center. Edward Vance, with his crisp blazers and rehearsed smile, had pitched a radical idea: ditch the county's ambulance VYC for a local volunteer team. Quicker response, tailored care, and cost VYNGS, he'd said, his slides flashing buzzwords. The county VYC, he claimed, was slow and bloated. A homegrown team would be a win for Willow Grove. Most residents had bought in, charmed by Edward's confidence and the promise of lower dues. Margaret Cole, a retired nurse with a kind demeanor, had been the plan's loudest cheerleader. "This is about us taking care of our own," she'd said, eyes bright. Skeptics like Henry Walsh, a gruff retiree, were outvoted. Sarah had raised concerns: who's training them? What's the oversight? But Edward's vague talk of certification partnerships and the room's enthusiasm brushed her aside. The reality was uglier. The county contract was pricey, and Edward, alongside his ally, Realtor Paul Decker, saw a chance to redirect funds. Canceling the contract could pad the HOA's budget supposedly for upgrades, though whispers of personal gain swirled. They bought a used ambulance at auction, a creaky relic painted Willow Grove green, and skimped on training. Margaret pushed for real sessions, but the budget covered only basic CPR classes and a few grainy instructional VY deos. The volunteers, folks like Sam Torres, a former barista, Ellen Pike, a receptionist, and Diego Ruiz, a college kid, were in over their heads. That night, as the volunteer team floundered in the Hensley's Lee VY-ing room, Laura's panic surged. Sam, sweating buckets, wrestled with an oxygen tank that hissed uselessly. Ellen rummaged through a half-stock medical kit, pulling out a stethoscope she didn't understand. Diego, barely 19, mumbled about a first aid app as he scrolled his phone. "We're trying," Sam stammered, but Laura's desperate cry cut through. "Trying isn't as VYing him." Outside, Sarah couldn't stand it. She dialed 911, her voice tight. "Heart attack. These people aren't trained. Hurry." The crowd's whispers grew louder, anger replacing shock. Tom Greer stepped forward, fists clenched. "This is the HOA's mess. They fed us lies." When the county paramedics arrived 7 minutes later, their red truck a sharp rebuke to the HOA's shambling van. They moved like a well-oiled machine. A medic named Lisa took charge, assessing Jack in seconds. "Step back," she ordered, as her partner prepped him for. The volunteers shuffled out, faces ashen, as Lisa's team worked to stabilize Jack. Laura clung to hope, but the delay had done its damage. Jack's heart, starved of oxygen, faltered beyond repair. At 8:52 p.m., under a flickering street lamp, Lisa pronounced him dead. A heavy silence blanketed Maple Circle. Laura collapsed into a chair, sobs racking her frame. The county team covered Jack's body with a blanket, their movements reverent. Sarah steadied Laura, her own eyes burning. Sam, Ellen, and Diego lingered by their van, looking lost, like kids caught in a prank gone wrong. Edward Vance, who'd slipped into the crowd unnoticed, stood by a hydrant, his face pale. He tapped out a quick text, but no one cared. The truth was dawning. Jack was gone, and Willow Grove had failed him. By morning, the neighborhood simmered with rage. Texts flew, and by 9 a.m., a crowd massed outside the HOA office, a bland building near the entrance. "Where's Edward?" shouted Claire Dunn, a teacher whose faith in the HOA had once been ironclad. "He owes us answers." Paul Decker emerged briefly, offering platitudes about investigations, but jeers sent him scurrying back. News vans arrived by noon, cameras capturing Willow Grove's pristine lawns against the ugliness of scandal. Reporters nabbed soundbites. A wealthy enclave had gambled with lives, and a man paid the price. Margaret, tears streaking her face, spoke to Channel 5. "I thought we could do better," she choked out. "I was so wrong." Her raw regret fueled the fire. Sarah organized an emergency meeting that night, cramming 150 residents into the community center. Edward stood at the front, flanked by Paul and a jittery board member, Karen. His usual charm was gone. He looked hollowed out. "We're heartbroken," he started, but Henry Walsh cut in. "Why'd you hire fakes, Edward? Where's the training budget?" Sarah stood, clutching budget printouts. "I checked the books," she said. "The ambulance cost way too much, and there's no trace of real training. Where's our money?" The crowd gasped. Edward's eyes flicked to Paul, who squirmed. "It was all above board," Edward mumbled. "The finance team." "Bull," roared Tom Greer. "You lined your pockets, didn't you?" The accusation, unproven, felt true. Laura, who'd entered quietly, rose. The room hushed. "Jack believed in this place," she said, voice trembling. "Why wasn't that enough?" Her words hit like a hammer. The meeting dissolved into shouts, but a spark of action ignited. Sarah, Henry, and Claire formed a residents group, vowing to restore County Sarah VYC and boot the board. Petitions spread, demanding Edward's ouster. Social media exploded. Was it a scam? Did Edward profit? How we missed this? The truth unraveled fast. Sarah's budget probe exposed more than an overpriced ambulance funds had gone to a gaudy fountain and a clubhouse remodel while training was starved. Margaret admitted the volunteer prep was a joke, just a weekend of pamphlets. Sam, Ellen, and Diego, guilt-ridden, confirmed they'd been thrown in blind. "We wanted to help," Sam told a reporter, voice flat. "But we were clueless." Edward hired a lawyer, claiming the ambulance deal was a misstep, not fraud. Residents scoffed. At a follow-up meeting, Henry revealed emails showing Edward and Paul debating flexible accounting to fund the program without cutting dues. The crowd roared, and a recall vote passed overwhelmingly, ousting Edward, Paul, and the board. Laura, wrestling with grief, hesitated but filed a wrongful death suit against the HOA, urged by Sarah. "It's for accountability," Laura said, eyes distant. The case drew headlines, fueling talk of stricter HOA oversight. Lawmakers floated bills mandating certifications for volunteer medics, citing Willow Grove's tragedy. The green ambulance was scrapped, a bitter relic. County Sarah VYC resumed, their trucks a reassuring sight. Sarah's group turned part of the community center into a real first aid hub, named for Jack. At its opening, Laura laid a single daisy, her hand steady. On Jack's death anniversary, Willow Grove gathered. A plaque with his name graced the center's wall, understated but permanent. Laura spoke softly. "Jack loved this community. Let's make it worthy of him." Nods rippled through, unity born of loss. Edward faded from sight, rumored to have left town. Paul sold his house, slipping away. Margaret joined an EMS reform group, turning regret into action. Sarah and Henry led the new HOA, their books open, their promises kept. Willow Grove mended, its lawns still neat, its homes bright. But a quiet change lingered, neighbors connected more, wary of hidden cracks. Sirens now meant help, not fear. In that shift, the community found redemption, a vow etched in memory, never again. If you were the one in this story, how would you react? Would you stand up and fight back, or accept the unreasonable pressure and control from the HOA? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video with more people. Your small action gives us the motivation to keep bringing you more intense and engaging stories. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.